If my mother had been willing to kill protesters, she would still be in power.
Mr. Wazed, thank you so much indeed for talking to us. Now, you've been saying that the ban on the Awami League from contesting these elections is undemocratic and illegitimate. And let's agree that sweeping bans on political parties are a bad idea. Many human rights watchdogs say that. But isn't there a great irony here? Because when you complain about rigged elections and unfair practices, that's exactly what the Awami League has been accused of doing for years in order to win elections.
This is true, the accusation, but you look at the facts.
Okay.
The Awami League never banned anyone, first of all. We have never imposed a ban on any political party. It was a court decision, it was an appeal from a third party that upheld that Jamaat's constitution conflicted with our constitution.
You're referring to the ban on the Jamaat-e-Islami, which is one of the major political parties in Bangladesh.
Yeah, but the Awami League government never officially banned Jamaat.
Okay, you didn't ban anybody, but at the same time, and this is just one of many different sources I'm going to cite, Human Rights Watch says that the Hasina-led government has effectively captured key institutions, including the Election Commission. The US State Department said that the 2024 elections, the last election, which you won with a landslide, your mother won with a landslide, was not free or fair. The UN's Human Rights Council said the Awami League's election victories were marred by irregularities, violence, and intimidation by security forces. I can keep going.
No, I've heard them all. Look, if you look at before the 2018 elections, our polls, the Americans' opinion polls, showed the Awami League was going to win by a landslide. None of us wanted any irregularities. There were people in the administration that took it upon themselves. My mother and I, from the party side, we were furious. We wanted a clean election because we were going to win anyway. Our opinion polls, I myself run our polling for our party. We polled 160 constituencies.
Right.
In those 160 constituencies, which were the battleground out of 300, our minimum margin of victory was 30%. So there was absolutely no reason. Now the 2024 elections, there was no rigging. Now unfortunately, our opposition decided to boycott.
No, but hold on. The argument could be the opposition was boycotting because of the climate. The environment was such that it wasn't free and fair. They were saying that these were marred by violence, intimidation by security forces. The Election Commission has been captured by your mother's government. Those are very serious charges.
The Election Commission was nominated and selected from a committee, not by our government.
Okay.
If you look at what's happening now, why are these same observers not saying anything? You have the elections with the major party banned. You've got now evidence is coming out online of postal ballots, hundreds of postal ballots being stuffed.
So actually, some of these bodies have questioned the ban. They have critiqued the ban. But as I said, that doesn't take away from the fact that the Awami League's own record when it comes to elections is marred not just by irregularities. These are serious malpractices. But I want to move on. I want to come back to the ban because one of the reasons for the ban is the government says you're inciting violence in these elections. And that's true, isn't it? Because you've said in interviews that we will not allow elections without the Awami League to go ahead. We will do whatever it takes. If the government's crack down on our protests, then it's going to lead to violence. I'm warning of it.
Right.
You stand by this.
But yes, well, when you push someone into a corner, what's going to happen? We don't want violence. We're not even being allowed to protest. So what violence is the Awami League committing right now?
I'm talking about the threat.
Yes, I understand. What I'm saying is if you back someone into a corner, you do not leave them any options. What are they going to do?
The option could be to tell your protesters or your supporters not to respond to provocation. As a responsible political party, you can say, let me just make the argument. You can tell your supporters, don't take the violent path, regardless of the provocation. Because otherwise, you're actually making the government's case for them. Because they will look at what you're saying and say, listen, this is why we need to ban them, because the Awami League has gone rogue.
So again, anything that this regime is doing, all the violence they have committed, that's okay?
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Right now, you have, since the protests of last July, hundreds of our activists have been killed. 30 some odd have been killed in custody. A Hindu gentleman, a minority leader of our party, was killed in jail under custody just the past week. So you say two wrongs don't make a right. When again,
But then
when you
that's
suppress someone by force, you do not give them any other option.
As
What's
I said,
going to happen?
No, but Mr. Wazed, don't you believe that by using this kind of rhetoric, you are actually then endorsing the view that the Awami League deserves to be banned? Because of, as I said, the fact that you're holding out this threat of violence. Let us contest or else.
I did not threaten violence. I said that if you suppress the protests with violence, of course there will be violence. I did not ask my protesters to attack.
Okay, you're now somewhat quibbling with semantics. But when you said that there hasn't been any violence so far, authorities in Bangladesh actually say that's not true. They say the Awami League was behind the assassination of the youth leader Sharif Osman Hadi just weeks ago while he was campaigning in Dhaka. Is that true? Was the Awami League behind his killing?
Of course not. Look, if we had the ability to conduct killings in Bangladesh right now, you think this regime would still be standing? No. Right now, the Awami League, we do not have the violent personnel, if you will, that perhaps some other organizations have.
Not according to the police in
They're
Dhaka. They
blaming
said the
everything.
shooter, if I can just finish, the shooter was directly involved with the student wing of the Awami League, the Chhatra League. They say that Hadi was killed because he was an outspoken critic of your party. It was an act of political vendetta.
I don't know who the shooter is. There have been many names that have been floated. They have named so many people who have nothing to do with it. As far as our student wing was concerned, there were so many young people involved with it, especially when we were in government. Was he really involved? How involved was he? Did he hold a post? They're pinning the blame on everything to the Awami League.
But it's a fair assumption to make, isn't it, Mr. Wazed? Because on one hand, you say that there is the possibility of violence, the threat of violence, and then you actually do have an actual act of violence.
My threat of violence is from
So the
protests.
dots do get joined.
No, they don't actually. I don't see how. Again, do you see the Awami League even out on the streets in Bangladesh? That's not even happening. We have tens of thousands behind bars. Every time we've tried to protest, they've just arrested everybody.
Okay.
So the Awami League is not involved in any violence whatsoever. Our campaign now is asking people not to vote in these rigged elections. That's what we're doing.
Okay, but let me ask you this. For anyone listening to you, it seems like almost there is no acknowledgement of the huge public anger that ousted your mother, the decades of repression that burst onto the streets. Your mother's government makes a brutal attempt to suppress that uprising, fails. She has to leave the country. No remorse for any of that?
That is not true. If you've listened to my statements online, I have said again and again, the Awami League mishandled the protests. Our government mishandled the protests.
Isn't mishandling a mild word for the killings of hundreds and hundreds of mainly unarmed protesters by the security forces ordered by your mother?
None of it was ordered by my mother. If my mother had been willing to kill protesters, she would still be in power. You look at what's happening in Iran right now. Are they able to do anything? No. My mother's statement.
Yes.
Again and again, and to me, my conversation that day was, they're marching on the Prime Minister's residence. Our special security force and the Prime Minister's guards are ready to defend her. But if that happens, hundreds will die. I don't want their blood on my hands. That is what my mother said. During that time, hundreds of police officers were killed. Hundreds of our activists were killed as well. This regime actually granted immunity to the protesters for the killings of.
Let's stay away from this regime for a second, because when you say your mother didn't give the instructions, you saw the AlJazeera reporting on it, the BBC reporting on it, the recordings that were there.
Yes,
if I can just finish, where your mother can be heard saying she's cleared the use of lethal force against the protesters. She says, I've issued an open order. Now they will use lethal weapons, shoot wherever they find them.
No, that is actually, both AlJazeera and BBC have taken that clip out of context. I have put that full clip on my Facebook page. She says she orders for the arrests of protesters and lethal force to protect property and life against militants. There were militants involved in it. There are videos online of civilians with weapons.
Hold on, but if I
military
can just
weapons.
come in on the clip though, because I've heard you say this in other interviews,
Yeah.
that you put the full clip on your social media pages. We looked, we scoured your social media pages, we couldn't find any such clip.
That is strange. So
would you be prepared to share that with us?
of course, I'll put it back up.
Okay,
Several
but-
clips have been taken down, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, but when you say that she was issuing an order about property, that doesn't seem to be what she said. When she says, I've issued an open order, now they will use lethal weapons, shoot wherever they find them. That seems like a very broad-based instruction.
But that is for violent protesters, armed protesters, terrorists, not for unarmed protesters. Now, so in any country,
Yes.
would the government? What happens if there are armed protesters shooting at people and shooting at police? What would they
So,
do?
Mr. Wazed, you talk about armed protesters, you talk about terrorists. Look at the sort of people who've been shot and killed. Abu Saeed, 25-year-old college student, unarmed, shot point blank by the police. His killing was caught on camera, went viral. Is he an extremist? Zobaid Hossein Iman, 12 years old. He was shot in the head by security forces firing from a helicopter. Mir Rahman Mugdo, also 25, also a student, also unarmed, shot dead by the police while distributing water to protesters. Are these extremists?
It was a very violent situation. There were police officers who used excessive force. Our government suspended many police officers during that time. We formed a judicial committee to investigate. Why weren't those investigations continued?
Would you be willing to apologize to the families of all of these protesters, including Zobaid Hossein Iman, Mir Rahman Mugdo, Abu Said? Would you be willing to apologize
My
to the
mother
families?
met with Abu Said's family right after it happened. She already met with them.
Okay.
During that time, before our regime fell, my mother met with several of these families. She promised them full investigations, full accountability.
But for the most part, though, multiple investigations, multiple watchdogs have found that the majority of the 1,400 who were killed were innocent, unarmed protesters. So that's a huge...
Yes, I know.
That's
But
a
according
huge
to the
lapse, isn't
government's
there?
own number, the number is about 800.
Which is also a big number.
I understand, but the 1,400 number comes from until August 15th. Our government fell on August 5th. Who killed the people from August 5th to 15th?
But
We're not
Mr. Wazed,
respond-
they're still finding bodies.
I know.
They're still finding mass
We are
graves
still
which
finding
which
that-
are
okay.
connected to
No,
the uprising.
that is completely being set up by this government. No, there are no mass graves. That
You're
is-
denying the mass graves that have been
I
found?
have not heard of mass graves.
Okay. Well, there's one that was
What-
just discovered with 114 bodies this
And
month.
what about the 500 people that were killed after our government fell? Who killed them? Why were who killed them?
Again, respectfully,
No,
this,
in
is
that
what,
14
this is whataboutery, though.
You're talking about the 1,400 number. Look, justice must be equal. You cannot have one-sided justice. One-sided justice is not justice.
Okay, but shouldn't the justice, Mr. Wazed, also extend to the political leadership? Because if I can finish, the UN investigation found that they were able to establish that the serious abuses against protesters by security forces occurred with the full knowledge, coordination, and direction of the political leadership, which obviously includes your mother.
That is a complete fallacy. I know the UN report is biased. Again, like I said, the UN report lists 1,400. It includes deaths after our government fell, and they've blamed our government for it. How is that a fair report?
So you
How
reject the UN
We
report, you
completely
reject the
reject-
BBC and AlJazeera recordings.
No,
I
you
mean,
are-
it's
well, you
then
are-
a question of then
No,
being
it's a-
very selective with what you accept and what
Actually, it's the BBC and AlJazeera that have been selective.
Okay.
And we have provided full clips online. We have provided pictures online of other people that were killed.
As
we
I
have
said-
provided pictures and of police officers that were killed.
As I said, those clips we are not able to find. We'll receive them from you. But I want to come back before I move on to the fundamental point you're making. You're saying that then your mother is not at all accountable
No,
for
I'm not.
all of those
That is
killings,
not what I'm saying.
all of the
No,
excesses.
that is not what
the
I'm
abuse
saying
of
at all.
state power.
What I'm saying is this. We did not grant immunity to anyone. We wanted justice for everyone. Anyone who was responsible for any deaths. What you
Including
have now,
her. What about that justice?
because my mother did not order any killings. My mother did not want any deaths.
As I said, there is the audio, there is the UN report. You reject both of them.
No,
but-
the audio
but that's your choice.
includes my mother.
Okay.